Welcome to ePathshala PG courses on computer science. Today we will see about the course web technology and one of the most important client side scripting language called JavaScript. The objective of this module is to learn about the basics of the JavaScript and to start writing simple JavaScript programs. And in this module we will discuss about the JavaScript variables, operators and the conditional statements or control statements supported in this language. So, JavaScript is actually a lightweight interpreted programming language. It is a client side scripting language and it's almost the syntax of JavaScript is looking like Java, but nothing in it's similar to Java, but it's the name comes with the concept of the naming conventions that are used in JavaScript or similar like Java. It is actually a lightweight programming language because it gets loaded automatically loaded in the client side or in the web browser once you load the HTML code. So, this JavaScript is a scripting language where the JavaScript code is written in the form of scripts and it is embedded into an HTML document. The browser display engine has to distinguish between the HTML code and the script code, and it is actually complementary to and it is integrated with Java. And but Java is a different developed by Sun, whereas JavaScript was initially developed by Netscape. So, they are two different things, but the naming conventions or the concepts implemented in JavaScript is similar looking like similar to an Java programming language. Hence, the name has got as JavaScript. And the JavaScript is an object oriented scripting language. It is an open and cross platform. It can be used with any of the browsers once you write a script code and embed it into an HTML document. And why you go for an JavaScript? The main advantages of this scripting languages, it's making less server interaction. You don't normally when you write a JavaScript code, it doesn't disturb the server. It automatically gets interpreted in the client side. It is not compiled, but it is an interpreted language. It is interpreted by the browser, any of the browser which can understand a script code, and it can give a feedback to the visitors who want to see that page, and it increases the interactivity, meaning that when you have an HTML page, it is actually a static page. You are making it interactive by responding to the user's action. So, you can actually provide data, text or any data in an HTML form through a HTML form, or you can make a browser action or keyboard actions on the HTML page which would be received by the script code and would be responded in the client side. And it also provide richer interfaces. It mainly the script code is useful for making the user interface as a dynamic one. You have when you include JavaScript code within a HTML, you can now call it as a DHTML, dynamic HTML. So, this provides an interactive and dynamic web pages. You can make image manipulations through a script code when it is embedded into a HTML document. You can actually apply swapping, rollovers, slideshows, etc. The lot more actions you can perform on a web page. You can make use of the stuffs like date and time, because JavaScript is an object oriented language. It provides everything in the form of objects, and you can make HTML forms processing. The HTML form would not be now a static form. Instead, the user can provide inputs through the HTML form and can get a feedback when it's interacting from the server. And you can also have JavaScript cookies written which will store the client side information through the browser. So, these are the advantages why we go for a scripting language like JavaScript. So, this script code would be embedded in an HTML page. We know that HTML is used for displaying purpose, or it is for displaying any data or information, and you call the document as an HTML document. Now, when the web browser runs a script program, then it becomes an interactive one. So, within an HTML document, along with formatting a HTML page, now we want the page as an interactive one. So, when the page is first loaded or in response to an event, this JavaScript code will actually run in your program in an HTML document. So, this script code would be placed directly within a HTML file, or it can be saved in an external file. So, we know that how to write an HTML file, and it is for displaying purpose. So, whatever information we put in a HTML document would be displayed in the web page. So, the browser can understand a HTML code and display the information. Now, what happens is you are going to embed a script code within this HTML code. So, apart from the displaying informations, this also now performs actions or response to actions. So, this script code will start executing when you first load the page in the browser, or it responds to some actions done by the user on the web page. So, this script code can be directly embedded into a HTML page. So, we will now know what is the next slide. We will know that what is the syntax we use for embedding the script code into an HTML document, or the source code can be externally saved in another file. When you use a JavaScript file as external file, we need to save that file as .js. But when the script code comes along with the HTML document, it is saved as a HTML document, and it has extension as .html. So, now we know that the script code can be placed anywhere within the HTML file. The HTML file has got two sections, one is the head section and the other one is the body section. This script code can be placed in the head section or in the body section or anywhere. You can also have script code in the head as well as in the body section. So, it can be placed anywhere within a HTML file. In order to embed the script code, we make use of a tag called script tag. So, this is how you like to embed a client side script in a web page. So, we use a script tag, and this is the attribute of the script tag, and we give the script commands or comments within this part. And to access an external script, we use the script tag, and the type, now the attribute source would now take the URL of the JavaScript file. The JavaScript file would be saved as .js extension. So, either we can have an external JavaScript file, or you can directly embed the script code, but whatever it is, the script code has to be embedded within the script tags. And now, once we have understood that, we are going to write the script code within the script tags, and it can be placed anywhere within the web page. Let us see about the attributes we use along with the script tag. So, we use an attribute called language, which is now having a value called JavaScript. This attribute specifies what scripting language we are actually using, and typically its value is going to be now JavaScript. And there is another attribute called type. This actually indicates the scripting language in use, and its value should be equal to text bar JavaScript, and within which you write the script code. And when you write a JavaScript program, all the statements, not like other programming languages, here this is in JavaScript, all the statements need not be end with a semicolon. So, semicolon is optional in a script statements, and this JavaScript is a case sensitive language. Now, in order to hide the script from the browsers, the script statements, the script code would not be understood. Some of the browsers may not understand the script code. So, in those cases, in order to make the browser ignore that code, script code, we can make use of the comment tags. So, we can make use of, when you see a script code, you can see these symbols coming along with the script code. This is to actually hide the script code from the non-supporting browsers. So, you can use a comment tag and end with a comment tag. So, now this is not actually the command in the HTML, this symbol is not understood as a comment tag. Hence, in order to make it or comment it as a block, we at the end tag we use an double slash. This is one of the comment tag to comment a single statement. And this is our first JavaScript program. We can see here it is going to be embedded within the HTML code. We make use of the script tag and we give the attributes, and then we use now one single statement called document.write, and we want to print string called hello world. So, there are two methods in JavaScript called document.write or document.writeln. There are some more also. In order to write text to a web page, we can either use a write or writeln, and text would be displayed here. So, you can see that the hello world display in the web page when the page is loaded, when the HTML page is loaded in the browser. So, this script code is actually written in the body section. This can also appear in the head section. And now you can see that some code is actually put within the comments. So, this variable declarations has been put within the comments. So, supposing the browser does not understand, then this would be treated as comments and would not be interpreted by the browser. When you see comments in JavaScript, any text between a double slash at the end of the line would be treated as a comment, or any text that appears between the characters this and this may span multiple lines and make it as a comment. So, this is an example given here. So, either you can use a single double slash and then make it as a comment, or you can use these characters to block multiple lines to be as a comment. And what are the data types that are supported in JavaScript? So, it supports primitive data types like numbers, strings and booleans. And JavaScript also defines two trivial data types like null and then undefined. Whenever you want to declare a variable, make use of the keyword as var. So, var is a keyword in JavaScript to declare any variables. So, we do not have to define the type of a variable in JavaScript. So, it is actually an untyped language. JavaScript is called as an untyped language. It can hold a value of any data type. You declare a variable with a keyword. You can see here, you declare a variable with a keyword var, and the variable name is given as money and name, comma name. This is one variable and this is another variable. We do not give the data type. So, this is called as an untyped language. And when you give the variable names, the variable name should not start with numbers, numeral from 0 to 9, but it can begin with a letter or with an underscore character. There are many reserved words in JavaScript, and this is an example where you do not, we have now seen that semicolons are optional. So, you can see here semicolon are very essential when you want to club multiple statements in a single line and you want to make a separation. So, here you have declared the variables like this variable money, this is just a declaration, this is a variable name is the variable name and it takes a value as a string, or the same variable it is declared now money, this money now takes a value as 2000.50, now this is treated as an integer. So, you need not give the data type, simply you can assign values to the variables. Looking into the scope of a variable, the scope of the variable defines the region where you are going to now use that variable. So, you can have global variables or local variables. Global variables have global scope which can be defined anywhere in the script code and it can be used anywhere, and local variables will be visible only within the function or within a block where you are declaring it. So, function parameters are always local to the function, they are considered as local variables. And within a body of a section, if you have a local variable, then that takes precedence over global variable with the same name. And now, in order to test the variable scope, we have an example here, and here we have declared a variable as global. So, here is where you have declared, then within the function you have declared another variable as myvar with the same name of the global variable and you have given a value as local. Now, within the function, if you try to print the value of this variable document.write of my variable, then it produces the result as local. And what are the operators that are supported in JavaScript? So, like other programming languages, JavaScript also supports operators like arithmetic operators, comparison operators, logical or relational operators, assignment operators and conditional operators. And other type of operators like type of operators is also available in JavaScript. Now, with arithmetic operators, now it supports the various operators like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, increment and decrement. So, when the addition operator works for both numeric as well as for strings, but when it works for Say for example, you have a string and it is added with, you use an addition operator with 10, this would actually convert it to strings. So, just like a Java programming language, this also has the similar way of working. Now, coming to an example of this arithmetic operators, you can see here we declare two variables like variable A and variable B. There is another variable called variable C which takes a string, and there is a variable called line break which takes a string like break. This is an HTML tag. Now, you can see that we try to print the value of A plus B and we try to find out the value of A minus B. Here we can see that document.write of line break. So, line break is a variable that holds the break tag. So, this automatically leaves a line after this result is A plus B result is printed. Now, you try to print what is the value of the different operators that are used in this example. We can use the increment operator and then you can find out the value getting incremented. The value of A is getting incremented. Here the value of B is getting decremented. So, just like other languages, this also supports the arithmetic operators and you can use these operators for coding your script. So, the output of the code is displayed like this. Now, you can see that the output of A plus B plus C is actually A was 33 and B was 43, and you try to, and C was a string. When you try to do this 33 plus 10 plus, this is A plus B plus C, you get a result like this. So, 33 plus 10 is evaluated to an integer addition which becomes 43, and then it is added concatenated with a string called test. So, that gets displayed like this. Now, coming to the comparison operators, it supports operators like equal and then not equal, the symbol is used like this, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. Now, a simple example to check these comparison operators. So, as earlier in the before example, we have two variables and we have a variable declared as line break which is actually a break tag, and we check if A equal to B, the resultant would be equal to A equal to B, and then you can see whether the result is less than, A is less than B, or you are checking whether the result is A greater than B, you are giving an expression assigned to an variable. Now, and you are checking with all the different operators. Now, what happens if result equal to, you are checking A equal to B. So, it checks the value and returns true or false. We have a Boolean data type supported in JavaScript. So, it checks the value and it returns an false because our A is not equal to B. And now coming to the logical operators, it supports operators like logical AND, logical OR, and then logical NOT. So, here is an example to check it. We have Boolean variables, these are considered as Boolean variables. Why? Because it takes a value of true or false, and then there is a variable called line break. Now, you are checking whether A, this is a logical AND, you are checking A and B. So, if they are both are true, then A and B will return true. If one is false, then A and B will return false. So, it works in the same way, A or B, logical OR, and this is a NOT operator, we are using it. So, now you can see that A and B is false because one is true and the other one is false. So, you get a value as false. And now, the bitwise operators supported in JavaScript are bitwise AND, bitwise OR, XOR, NOT, left shift, right shift, and then right shift with 0. So, this is a simple example to check it. So, here you can see that it takes the bit representation of A and the bit representation. When the variables are used in with bit operators, it makes use of the bit representation of the corresponding variables. So, now you are trying to check A and B. This is a single AND symbol. This means that it is a bitwise AND. So, it takes the bit representation of A and B and gives the result. Similarly, we are checking the bitwise OR, the exclusive OR, the complement symbol, the shift operators, and now you can see that A and B becomes 2. Why? Because you take the bit representation of 2 is 10, the bit representation of this is 11. Okay. So, when you add you make an AND between these two things, you will get these two are true. So, it becomes 1, this is 1 false and 1 true, this becomes 0. So, you will get a value of 10 which is converted now to integers, and now it is printed as A, the bitwise AND with B will give a value as 2. Now, it is printed as integer. The operations are done with bits, binary representation, and the value is now printed again as integers. And JavaScript supports the following assignment operators. So, you can make a simple assignment, an add assignment, subtract an assignment, multiply an assignment, and all these things just like you have in the other languages. Now, you can see the assignment operators. Here it is not a double equal to, it is an assignment A equal to B. What would be the result of value output of this variable result? So, it makes an assignment of B to A. So, now you can see you will get a value of 10. So, B value is assigned to A, it is not checking, but it's an assignment operator, the value gets assigned to A, B value of A is assigned to A, that would be printed. So, similar to it the other operators also works. The miscellaneous operators that are supported in JavaScript are the conditional operator and the type of operator. This is ternary operator, the conditional operator, we will see an example. The type of operator is a unary operator. This actually takes one operand and it prints the data type of that operand. So, you can see here you have a variable A and B. Now, this is where a conditional operator is used. You check A is greater than B. If this condition becomes true, the second expression would get executed. If the condition becomes false, the third would get executed. So, similar like C or C++ or Java, the same way this conditional operator works in JavaScript too. So, resultant of either 100 or if A is greater than B, here A is not greater than B. So, what would be the result of output of this variable result? It would be 200. So, you can see that it checks and it stores the value as, shows the value as 200. Now, the type of operator would return the data type of the operand. It is the unary operator which takes a single operand. So, now you can see here we are checking the type of B. B is a variable which holds a string value. So, we are checking the type of this variable is a string, then B is a string, or you are trying to print it as B is numeric. And this JavaScript also supports the different control structures like if else. So, if else comes in various forms. You can give an if, the condition, the test condition can be given and the statements to be executed if the expression is true, or you can give an if with else. So, if the condition is true, the statements within this if would be executed. If the condition is false, the statements within an else block would be executed, and you can nest this if else in any form. So, if else, you have all these support in JavaScript. So, this is an example. Here you are declaring a variable called book which takes a string value called max. You are checking if book equal to history. This is not true. So, this would not be printed, else if book equal to max, then the second part would get printed. So, this is actually the output would be a max book. And a for loop is also supported in JavaScript. The syntax is given like this: for the initialization, the test condition and the iteration statement. So, here the initialization would be first performed for when the first iteration starts, and then the test would be checked for every iteration, the test condition would be checked for every iteration, and then this is the iteration, the how much you want to increment or decrement in each iteration. So, here you can see that a for loop works like this: for a variable equal to 0, a variable less than 2 is, this is the test condition and this is the increment condition. So, it checks from 2 to 0 to 2 and then it prints the count value. And this JavaScript for comes in another form also. You can use for the variable name in object and within which you can use the statement or the block to execute. So, here you can see that for you declare a variable called a property, and then you say that for this property in the history object, this is one of the property of an object called history in JavaScript. You try to print the properties of all the history objects. So it actually prints the history object properties like length, state, back, forward, go, push state, replace state. This is an variable, you use a variable and this variable in history object. So you can iterate through in an object using this, the second version of the for loop. And now switch case, there is a support for switch case in JavaScript. You can give switch the expression and the different condition statements can be given. So if any one condition is satisfied, that corresponding statement block would get executed. And you can also have a default case. So if none of the cases or matches with the condition, then it enters into the default case and executes the default. So now this is an example to explain the switch case. You have a variable called grade which takes a value as A. Now you enter into the switch block takes the grade value and now you check the different cases. If case is A, then you try to write or print good job. If it is B, you try to print pretty job and then pretty good, and then if it is default case matches, then you are trying to print unknown grade. So you are entering into the switch block, this would be printed first, then we have already assigned the variable grade with the value as A. Now taking the value of this expression grade, it now checks, it matches with the first case and then it prints the first string called good job and makes a break from the switch case. So you can see the output of this switch case. Now JavaScript also supports while loops. So you take an expression in a while loop and the statement to be executed would be within this while block. So this is an example of the while loop. You can see here while count, this is the condition. So as long as the condition is true, whatever statements that is within this while block would get executed. So you keep your count is initially 0, you keep incrementing your count and when it reaches 2, that would stop the loop and it comes out of this while loop. So you can see here it gets printed as 0, 1 and 2. There is a support for do while loop in JavaScript, but when you use a do while, don't miss the semicolon at the end of the while statement. It works in the same way, but without checking the condition for the first iteration, it enters into the block. So at least once a do while loop would get printed. So same way the example is here. So without checking the condition, it first prints the count and the end of the do while block you have the condition check. You have a break statement. This is for coming out of a loop. So if you want to come out of the loop, you can make a break statement. And like break statement, you also have a continue statement. So here continue, break from the current iteration, and if you want to start the next iteration, then you can make use of the continue statement. And we can also use labels to control the flow. So you can see how the labels are declared here. So using this label, you can see that it can either jump to the inner loop or to the outer loop. So variables could also be declared in JavaScript. So what we have seen in this module, we have seen about the basics of JavaScript, why you need a JavaScript, and we have understood that it is a client-side scripting language and it can be easily coded within the HTML document, and you save the file as .html and you can load your HTML document. Now the page becomes an interactive web page, and we have seen about the basics of JavaScript. We have seen how to declare variables, the data types supported in JavaScript and the different operators, and we have also explored about the different control statements structures that are supported in JavaScript like conditional statements and looping statements. Thank you.